Thank you for attending my presentation on how Silksong froze the indie game industry. Well, what is Silksong? Hollow Knight's Silksong, the long-awaited sequel to one of the most beloved indie games of all time, that being Hollow Knight. You play as Hornet, navigating the sprawling kingdom of Farloom, filled with secrets, enemies, and breathtaking art. Hand drawn, by the way. It's not just a Metroidvania, it's a masterclass in game design, at least from what my friends say and what reviews say. Every area and every enemy is difficult, challenging, and wonderful. Team Cherry, I assume, didn't want to completely freeze and break the indie game industry, but that is exactly what happened. September 4th, 2025, Silksong drops with 0 pre-orders and was teased 2 weeks ago with no hype marketing blitz, no countdowns. The results? Absolute chaos. Steam peaked at 587,000 concurrent players. Nintendo eShop struggled to keep up. PlayStation Store struggled to keep up. Xbox verification service struggled to keep up. And even Steam itself struggled to keep up. In just 2 weeks, the game sold over 3.2 million copies on Steam alone, generating nearly $50 million. And all for $19.99. Not to mention the 1.5 million downloads via Xbox Game Pass. This was Team Cherry, a small indie team, with a perfectly timed, perfectly executed, hyped up game. This was essentially the GTA 6 of indies. Broke servers worldwide. Storefronts froze, communities exploded, and the indie world collectively put a pause on itself. Essentially, Hollow Knight Silksong was pulling up Dan Marino numbers. Now, game delays. The shockwaves didn't just stop at sales. Other indie developers scrambled to avoid Silksong's release because it's going to be really hard to get coverage in your game when GTA 6 for indies essentially released. Games like Clover Pits, Stomping the Sword of Miracles, Feyland, Demon School, Little Witch of the Woods, Baby Steps by Bennett Foddy, that's the guy who made Getting Over It, Moro's Protocol, Mega Bonk, and every single Power Ranger. Fearing that competing against this tsunami of attention and anticipation that Silksong was going to bring would make their releases invisible, and for one game, essentially did. The Curious Case of Hell Is Us. Released the exact same day, is an atmospheric action-adventure game praised, a generally favorable game, for puzzles and exploration and story, I think, are the characters. It was a game and a new IP from an indie studio. This is cool, right? Although it was priced at $50. Despite its quality, it barely registered. Silksong's dominated streams, social media, and press coverage. The creative director himself, Jonathan Jacques Belletete, my apologies, called the timing a little callous because logical constraints and pre-orders made delaying impossible. To be fair, it just feels bad when your game has to release on the exact same day as the most anticipated indie game of the decade, possibly even ever. The result, a solid indie game launched into a vacuum of attention, swallowed by the wave of a $20 masterpiece. Speaking of, the price, $19.99 for a multi-year passion project that rivals AAA production in polish. For players, it was a dream. But here's the insane part. Team Cherry was operating like they had an infinite money glitch. More recently, it was revealed that the original Hollow Knight sold 15 million copies. That revenue funded Silksong's development. They could take risks that no other indie studio could afford. Longer development? You got it. Lower price? Hell no. Marketing? Why would we need to market? We're Silksong. Most indie developers don't get that luxury. They have to balance budgets, timelines, and expectations. Of course, with the increased cost of living that came in here recently. Team Cherry could effectively print money because they had Hollow Knight, so they could just stop. They don't have to release a game. They don't have to worry about these time and money constraints. other indie developers do. So, rightfully so, indie developers sort of feel pressured, right? With this game, with a hand-drawn art and a crazy soundtrack, insane content, and a long amount of content, while also being the most anticipated indie game of all time, was selling at $20, and makes you feel kind of bad for selling your game at $20. Example, right? Lone Fungus 2. That was a game that was going to be releasing. That costs $20. Would you rather play a new indie game in a similar genre to Silksong from a new IP? I think. Yeah, a Metroidvania. Or would you buy the most anticipated game in indie history that's a sequel to Hollow Knight from Team Cherry that had, what was it, 7 years and infinite money to develop their game? It's a bit of a easy choice here, guys. While the low price of Silksong is a great boon to the consumer, it's understandable that indie developers would feel a bit pressured. These aren't AAA companies, guys. These are guys that are made with like, what, I don't know, 10 to 20 people, not as much money. That's just how it is. So, I want some anticipation. Silksong didn't just release a game, it reshaped the indie industry. Developers now have to consider, could our release be swallowed by the next perfect indie storm? Probably not. Pricing, timing, and visibility are all under pressure. The indie world has been reminded that one studio, with perfect execution in the right conditions, can essentially freeze the market. In the end, Silksong wasn't just a game. It was a statement, a benchmark, a tidal wave, and a warning. The rules of indie development has changed, and the industry will feel the impact for years to come. Except for me, though. I didn't buy Silksong. I'm just out here playing Dota. But yeah, if you watched the whole video and you like, give me a subscription. Drop a comment below, especially a hate comment, because that drives the algorithm forward. Thanks, guys. I fuck with y'all, and you guys the MVPs. Aw, crap, I just said a curse word. Oh well.